There's a system, one so invisible yet so powerful, that it doesn't need to chain you. It only needs to convince you that the chains are made of gold. It whispers, it doesn't order. It tempts, it doesn't command. And in America, this system has a name: debt. But this isn't a story about numbers or economics. This is about psychology, a war fought inside your mind long before it ever hits your wallet. Because debt, in its modern form, isn't just financial. It's behavioral, it's emotional, it's engineered. Every commercial, every limited time offer, every perfectly timed sale, each one has a single purpose: to keep you buying even when you shouldn't. To make want feel like need, to make later feel like now. You think you're making choices, but the truth is, your choices are being designed for you. From the moment you wake up, you're surrounded by carefully constructed triggers, colors, sounds, words, all crafted using decades of psychological research. Companies know the exact shade of red that triggers an impulse buy. They know the precise font that builds trust. They know the rhythm of a jingle that will embed itself in your memory for years. And slowly, almost invisibly, you start to associate spending with satisfaction. But here's the dangerous part. America doesn't just sell products anymore, it sells identities. That's why the marketing isn't just about what you buy. It's about who you become when you buy it. A new phone isn't a gadget, it's a symbol of status. A new car isn't just transportation, it's validation. Every single purchase whispers the same quiet message: you are what you own. And that's how the debt machine truly begins. Not in banks or corporations, but right there in your reflection. Because when spending feels like self-expression, stopping feels like losing a part of yourself. And that is exactly how the system was designed. The modern American economy depends on your discontent. It thrives on it. The second you feel complete, the whole engine stops turning. So, you're never meant to feel complete. Advertising learned a long time ago that satisfaction kills profits. So it sells you the illusion of happiness, the promise that the next thing will finally make you whole. The next iPhone, the next sneaker drop, the next, you deserve this moment. But once you buy it, the dopamine fades, and the hunt begins all over again. You're not shopping for things anymore. You're shopping for a feeling, and that feeling is manufactured, calculated to disappear the moment it arrives. This cycle doesn't just happen by accident. It's reinforced at every level of our society. Schools teach you finance like it's a distant theory, not a fundamental survival skill. Society glorifies the grind while shaming rest and contentment. And credit companies, they market freedom while selling debt in disguise. You see, the goal was never to make you rich. It was to make you reliable. A reliable cog in a machine that runs on the illusion of prosperity. You get the home, the car, the vacation. But the price is an invisible servitude, a life spent running on a treadmill you can never get off. Even those simple words, buy now, pay later, they sound harmless, don't they? But they're the anthem of a new generation of debt. What started as convenience has now morphed into a culture. Subscription plans for everything, loyalty points, easy monthly payments. It's all just rebranded dependency. It's a way to break down the cost until it feels like nothing. Until you've signed up for a dozen nothings that add up to a mountain. And the deeper you go, the harder it is to climb out. Because debt isn't just about what you owe, it's about what you believe you deserve. And in America, the line between desire and entitlement has been deliberately blurred. Every ad you see is designed to convince you you're falling behind. Every influencer sells you a lifestyle you'll never quite reach. And every deal is a constant reminder that you're just one purchase away from happiness. Or so you're told. But behind all the flash and the catchy slogans lies a colder, harder truth. The economy needs you to stay unfulfilled. It needs you to keep chasing. Because the moment you stop, the whole illusion collapses. So maybe the real American dream isn't about freedom anymore. Maybe it's about distraction. A system so polished, so beautifully designed, you don't even notice you're trapped inside it. And while you're busy chasing symbols of wealth, the wealthiest are quietly cashing in on your chase. The same corporations that urge you to treat yourself are the ones that profit when you can't pay it back. The same institutions that offer credit relief are the very ones that designed your struggle in the first place. And the same marketing agencies that make you fall in love with products are the ones that study your psychology like a lab experiment. You are not the customer anymore. You are the product. And the scariest part? You've been trained to love your own captivity. This is just the beginning. If this opened your eyes, make sure to follow for more because we're just getting started pulling back the curtain. Thank you for watching. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, you always seem to be just a little behind? It's not your fault. It started as a quiet idea, an experiment not in control by force, but by desire. You see, debt didn't become the foundation of our modern world by accident. It was engineered. Back in the early 1900s, America stumbled upon something far more valuable than gold: consumer trust. And from that trust, a new kind of wealth was born, one that didn't need vaults or paper currency. It lived in the simple, seductive promise of later. If people could be convinced to buy now and worry later, the economy could grow without limits. But here's the secret they never tell you. Endless growth isn't prosperity, it's addiction. Credit was sold to us as freedom, the ability to have everything we desire without the inconvenience of waiting. But the harsh truth is that credit isn't freedom. It's a leash, cleverly disguised as an opportunity. This isn't the kind of visible control you can fight against. It's invisible, woven into the fine print of your student loan, your mortgage, and that tempting 0% APR for 12 months offer. Every convenience comes with a hidden cost, one you don't feel until it's far too late. To make sure you never step out of line, they created another brilliant invention: the credit score. What started as a simple tool to measure risk quietly transformed into a modern-day social ranking system. It doesn't just decide if you can borrow money, it decides who you're allowed to be. It determines the apartment you can rent, the car you can drive, even the job you can get. It dictates how the world treats you. And the most disturbing part? It doesn't measure your worth as a person. It measures your obedience. Pay on time, stay in line, and never, ever question the interest. Because in this system, rebellion looks like bad credit. When the FICO system first launched, it was marketed as a way to reward responsibility. But behind the curtain, it was a massive behavioral experiment. The score was never about fairness. It was about predictability. It was about identifying who could be trusted to keep spending, keep paying, and keep playing the game. You were reduced to a number, and that number became your passport to the modern world. This was the genius of the system. It didn't need to force you to spend. It just had to make you believe that your value as a person depended on it. It convinced you that to stop buying was to stop existing. And that's why the system rewards debt. Not all debt, of course, just controlled debt. The kind that keeps you working, striving, and chasing. Miss a payment and you're punished, but pay everything off? You're punished too. Your score drops because stability isn't profitable. They don't want you debt-free. They want you dependable. Take education, for example. Knowledge was once seen as the path to freedom. Today, it's one of the most profitable traps in history. The student loan industry isn't built to empower the next generation. It's built to own it. Think about it. You begin your adult life already in debt long before you've even earned your first real paycheck. And what do you do next? You chase the very jobs that keep you trapped within the system that created your debt in the first place. The economy calls this an investment. But in reality, it's a modern form of indenture, a softer, more polite word for lifelong servitude, all sold under the banner of opportunity. And whenever the cracks in this system begin to show, when millions of people can no longer keep up, the system just finds a new trick. It rebrands the cage. Credit cards become sleek apps. Loans become buy now, pay later. The immense financial stress we all feel is repackaged as the hustle. The same debt cycle that once trapped your parents gets a shiny digital makeover and is sold directly to your children. The system isn't broken, it's just evolving. And yet, even now, most of us believe we're in control. We swipe our cards, build our credit, and celebrate our good score. We tell ourselves we're winning the game. But here's the twist. In this game, there is no winning, there is only spending. Because every single time you try to get ahead, the system adjusts. Prices inflate, interest rates climb, wages stagnate. And that finish line you're sprinting towards just moves further away. This is the genius of psychological debt. It keeps you running toward a horizon that does not actually exist. You're not supposed to catch up. You're supposed to stay motivated, productive, and just hopeful enough to keep working, but never so secure that you start asking why. Because the moment you question the game, the illusion begins to crack. And once you see the truth, that the system was never built for your freedom but for your dependence, you can never unsee it. Debt isn't some unfortunate accident of the American dream. In many ways, it is the American dream, modernized, digitized, and monetized for profit. And the most chilling part? It's no longer just about money, it's about your data. Because in the next chapter of this story, we'll uncover how the same psychology that made you a spender is now being used to predict your spending before you even make a choice. The system doesn't wait for your decision, it makes it for you. If this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching. Imagine a system that knows when you're tired, when you're lonely, and when you're most likely to buy something you don't need. A system that doesn't just understand you, it anticipates you. That system already exists, and it's running right now, quietly feeding the machine that keeps us all spending. This isn't about banks and credit cards anymore. This is about behavioral data. Your clicks, your searches, your pauses, your micro-hesitations. Every scroll is a confession, and every like is a breadcrumb leading back to you. And somewhere, in a massive server farm, powerful algorithms are turning your impulses into a prediction model. A digital clone of you, optimized for one thing: spending. Your data knows when your mood dips. It knows when payday hits. It even knows when you've had a fight with someone, when you're bored at 2 a.m., or when you're just craving a little dopamine hit. And in those exact moments, the system whispers. It sends a perfectly timed ad, a flash sale, a limited offer just for you. But here's the part that most people never realize. This isn't just manipulation. It's conditioning, because when you respond, you reinforce the pattern. When you click, the machine learns. And with each purchase, it gets sharper, faster, and more intimate. It stops being simple marketing and starts feeling like mind reading. And if that sounds overly dramatic, remember this. Entire teams of neuroscientists, behavioral economists, and cognitive psychologists are employed not to understand you, but to monetize you. Every app on your phone is part of a grand psychological experiment, testing just how far the human brain can be pushed before it realizes it's being guided. These algorithms are not random. They are built to exploit the very same neural pathways that things like gambling target, the dopamine loop. It's the same chemical rush a gambler feels at the slot machine, the little ping of a notification, the red bubble on your app icon, the countdown timer on a sale. They all trigger the same biological response: anticipation. You're not addicted to spending. You're addicted to the possibility of satisfaction. And the system knows this. It thrives on it. Because it's not selling you a product, it's selling you the illusion of control. This is why advertising has evolved beyond simple persuasion. We are in the era of prediction. Tech companies don't ask what you'll buy, they ask when. They study your emotional patterns to predict the exact second you're most likely to say yes. That's why an ad for a vacation pops up minutes after you were just talking about one. Why your feed seems to read your mind. It's not listening to your microphone, it's listening to your behavior. Every search, every swipe, every small hesitation teaches the system who you are, or rather who it needs you to be. And this machine doesn't sleep. It's connected to your credit history, your location, and your spending habits. It knows when your rent is due, when you're most anxious about bills, and when you're most tempted by those buy now, pay later offers. Because when you're stressed, you spend emotionally. When you're bored, you spend impulsively. When you're insecure, you spend to fill the silence. The algorithm doesn't judge you. It simply profits from you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The line between psychology and marketing has completely vanished. What once studied human behavior to understand it, now studies it to exploit it. And in this new digital economy, you are not just a consumer. You are the commodity. Your attention is the product. Your emotions are the fuel. The longer you stay hooked, the more data the system extracts, and the richer it becomes. The most powerful companies in the world don't sell hardware or software or even content. They sell certainty. The certainty of knowing what you'll buy next week, what you'll crave next month, and what you'll fear next year. That certainty is worth billions, and it's reshaping the psychology of an entire generation. Because when people are predictable, they are profitable. This is why ads now follow you across platforms, across time zones, and across all your devices. You can delete cookies, clear your cache, even switch accounts. But your behavior is your fingerprint. It's the one thing you can't erase. And the system doesn't just know what you want, it knows why you want it. It knows your insecurities, your habits, your history. It can trace your emotional evolution from your first online search to your latest regretful purchase. This isn't a coincidence. It's all by design. And yet we tell ourselves we're too smart to be influenced. We believe we're making independent choices. But every swipe, every ad, every impulse has been gently guided toward a single destination: purchase. Because in the economy of attention, free will is just another illusion. And that's how the system keeps you spending. Not through pressure, but through prediction. Not through fear, but through familiarity. The system doesn't need to convince you anymore. It only needs to mirror you until you trust it more than you trust yourself. This is the new face of consumer debt: invisible, intelligent, and deeply intimate. In our next video, we'll pull back the final curtain to expose how entertainment, lifestyle culture, and influencer marketing have turned consumption into our very identity, and why escaping the trap feels almost impossible. Because once your desires are engineered, freedom isn't about choice anymore. It's about awareness. Every generation is told the same story. Work hard, buy more, and happiness will follow. But what if that story wasn't born from freedom? What if it was engineered? Because somewhere between the neon glow of a billboard and the scrolling feed on your phone, the American dream quietly transformed into the American scheme. Once upon a time, marketing sold products. A better washing machine, a faster car. Simple enough. Now it sells personalities. It whispers to you that buying isn't just about need anymore. It's about belonging. It convinces you that every single item you purchase is a signal, a story you tell the world, a proof that you exist within the right tribe. But this is where the psychology deepens, because this isn't just capitalism running its course. This is cultural hypnosis. From the sitcoms you grew up with to the music videos you watched, from reality shows to the latest TikTok trends, the same invisible narrative hums just underneath the surface. You are what you own. Think about it for a moment. Every advertisement, every influencer, every so-called success story you see online is a mirror, and it's held up directly to your insecurities. It doesn't sell the product itself. It sells the feeling of being enough. And that feeling, that fleeting sense of validation, has become America's most profitable currency. Because when you start measuring your self-worth through ownership, something strange happens. Debt becomes invisible. It's no longer a burden to be avoided. It becomes a badge of participation in the culture. The system whispers in your ear, "You deserve this." And it says it even when you can't afford it. In fact, it says it especially when you can't afford it. Credit cards, installment plans, the now ubiquitous buy now, pay later options. These aren't just tools of convenience. They are psychological permission slips. They are designed to blur the line between your aspirations and your actual affordability. And behind it all, corporations discovered a gold mine, the emotional link between a person's identity and their consumption habits. They realize that the more people define themselves by what they buy, the less likely they are to ever stop buying. It's a cycle that feeds itself. The new gods of marketing aren't even brands anymore. They're influencers. They are people who appear authentic, relatable, and miraculously self-made. They don't just pitch products to you, they pitch possibility. They sell you a lifestyle, a dream of who you could become. And every click, every comment, every share you give them feeds the illusion that with just one more purchase, one more online course, one more upgrade, you'll finally make it. But here's the trick, the sleight of hand. The influencer economy doesn't just influence your spending, it actively manufactures envy. The system knows that envy is the engine of modern capitalism. It keeps the cycle spinning. It makes you reach for your phone, scroll through your feed, compare your life to a curated image, and then spend money in a desperate pursuit of something that was never real to begin with. This culture teaches you to constantly chase the next thing and to live in fear of being left behind. You don't buy the new phone because it's fundamentally better than your old one. You buy it because it's now. You buy it because it's trending. You buy it because not having it feels like being invisible. That isn't freedom of choice. That's compliance by design. And within this design, every form of debt is cleverly disguised as a dream. A college degree, once a ticket to a better life, becomes a lifetime payment plan. A car, a symbol of freedom, becomes a financial leash that dictates your choices for years. A home, the ultimate symbol of achievement, becomes a mortgage marathon that defines entire decades of your life. Yet, almost no one calls it what it is. We call it normal. Because when everyone around you is in debt, debt stops feeling like a trap. It just becomes the culture. America doesn't just teach consumption, it glorifies it. Luxury has become a virtue. Frugality, on the other hand, is seen as a sign of failure. Even the act of resisting consumerism, minimalism, has been completely commercialized. Sold back to you through $400 decluttering courses and $2,000 sustainable fashion wardrobes. Everything, even your attempts to resist, gets monetized. The result of all this? A generation that measures its sense of peace by the price tag of its distractions. We borrow against our own futures for brief moments of validation that vanish within seconds of a post or a purchase. And the corporations, the credit systems, the digital advertisers, they are all waiting patiently at the end of that impulse, ready to turn your momentary feeling into their long-term profit. This isn't some grand conspiracy hatched in a secret room. It's a culture. It's a culture that doesn't have to force you to spend your money. It simply convinces you that not spending it means you're missing out. Because FOMO, the fear of missing out, isn't just a social emotion anymore. It has been weaponized into an economic tool. And so, every click, every post, and every ad you see is perfectly tailored to keep you striving. Not for survival, not for genuine happiness, but for validation. And here's the core of the problem. Validation can't be saved up. It can only be bought over and over and over again. When your happiness depends on external validation from others, the debt system doesn't just own your money, it owns your mind. This is how America keeps you spending, by transforming debt into a part of your identity, by turning envy into motivation, and by equating marketing with self-worth. The system doesn't need to shout at you to buy, it just needs to make you feel less than until you do. And that's the most dangerous part of it all. You don't even see it happening. You call it ambition, you call it the hustle, you call it living the dream. But if everyone is constantly chasing, who is actually catching anything real? Because in a society built on consumption, happiness isn't found. It's sold, and every smiling face you see in an advertisement is hiding another bill that's waiting to be paid. They say you can't take debt with you when you die, But that's not entirely true. Because in America, debt doesn't die. It transfers. It seeps through generations, hidden in college loans, mortgage balances, medical bills, and quiet promises parents make to give their children a better life. A life that often begins already borrowed. The illusion starts early. A child grows up hearing their parents talk about the price of success. College isn't a choice, it's a rite of passage. A house isn't a home, it's an investment. A car isn't just transportation, it's a status symbol. But underneath those expectations lies the quiet reality. Every dream in America has a dollar sign attached. The average young adult steps into adulthood carrying more than ambition. They carry debt. And the system calls it normal. Because when you convince an entire generation that debt is a necessary step toward success, you've created a cycle that feeds itself forever. College loans shape career choices. Mortgages dictate lifestyles. Credit scores define worthiness. Freedom becomes conditional, not on how hard you work, but on how much you owe. This is the quiet genius of the American debt machine. It doesn't enslave through force. It enslaves through hope. Hope that the next job, the next raise, the next decade will make it all worth it. But debt doesn't wait for hope. It compounds. Interest is the silent tax on dreams. It grows while you sleep, while you work, while you believe you're catching up. And the system, it profits off your patience. Banks don't just lend money, they sell time. They profit from delay, from deferral, from the illusion that paying a little each month equals progress. But that's the trick. The system doesn't want your debt gone. It wants it manageable. Because manageable debt keeps you working. It keeps you chasing promotions, clocking in and producing. It keeps you docile, grateful for credit, fearful of losing it. You think you're earning freedom. But the more you earn, the more the system expands its reach. Through higher spending limits, bigger loans, and shinier promises. Every milestone in life is monetized. Marriage, loans, education, loans, health, loans. Even death comes with financing options. And for those who fall behind, the system has no mercy. Creditors don't forget. Your name, your history, your choices, they become data points in a permanent file, shaping how much you're worth to the machine. And that worth is no longer measured in humanity, but in risk. Because behind every financial decision now stands an algorithm. Cold, efficient, impartial. It doesn't care about struggle. It cares about compliance. It decides whether your dreams are fundable, whether your life is profitable. This is how the new economic hierarchy forms, not by birthright, but by creditworthiness. Those with assets grow wealthier through access. Those without, they become the fuel. And while the system rewards the few who learn to play it, the majority are trapped in a cycle they didn't design. Parents work their entire lives to pay off their debts, only for their children to inherit new ones. Not directly in dollars, but in conditioning. Children watch their parents stress over bills, celebrate tax refunds, chase overtime, and call debt part of life. And slowly, subconsciously, they absorb the message that success is measured by what you can buy, not what you can keep. And so the cycle repeats. Each generation entering adulthood slightly poorer, slightly more desperate, slightly more dependent on the system that thrives on their exhaustion. But here's the quiet tragedy. Debt doesn't just take money, it takes time. It steals the years that could have been spent creating, exploring, living. Instead, millions spend their lives calculating, juggling minimum payments, interest rates, and due dates, while believing they're on the path to freedom. But the truth is, financial freedom in modern America isn't the absence of debt. It's the ability to sustain it, to keep it just under control, to keep paying, to keep moving. Because a person who's free from debt doesn't need the system. And the system can't afford that. Every transaction, every swipe, every signature feeds a machine that was never designed to set you free. It was designed to keep you participating. Debt in this light is not just financial. It's cultural, it's generational. It's the invisible chain that links past, present, and future. And the longer it goes unbroken, the stronger it becomes. Until one day, someone questions it. Someone looks at the numbers and realizes the math doesn't add up. That lifetime loyalty to a system that profits from your obedience isn't prosperity. It's servitude dressed as success. And that's when the real awakening begins. Because once you see debt not as a mistake, but as a mechanism, you stop blaming yourself for being trapped inside it. You start asking who built the maze. And when you finally ask that question, that's when the system starts to tremble. If this story resonated with you, let me know your thoughts in the comments. For generations, we've been told a comforting story, that freedom is something you earn. Work hard, play by the rules, pay your dues, and one day you'll be free. But what if that story is a lie? What if freedom was never meant to be earned, but bought? And the price isn't money, it's obedience. You see it everywhere, on billboards, in commercials whispered through glowing screens. Live without limits. Own your tomorrow. Freedom to choose. But look closer. Every promise has fine print. Every freedom is tied to a contract, a subscription, a credit agreement. The more choices you think you have, the deeper you're pulled into the system. The modern definition of freedom isn't independence, it's access. Access to credit, to luxury, to status symbols that make you feel powerful, even as they tighten their grip. This is the great illusion of the debt machine, that by participating, you're winning, that your ability to buy, borrow, and upgrade is a sign of success. But real freedom doesn't come from swiping your card without a care. It comes from realizing you don't need to swipe it at all. Every system of control, whether it's political, financial, or digital, depends on one thing: your participation, your attention, your belief that what they're selling is essential. They don't need to silence you, they just need to keep you distracted. Distracted by chasing promotions. Distracted by paying interest. Distracted by scrolling through the lives of others, constantly comparing, buying, and repeating the cycle. The most effective form of control isn't force, it's distraction disguised as opportunity. Even the idea of breaking free has been turned into a product. There are courses, books, mentors, and gurus, all promising you escape for a price. The irony is staggering. The system sells you the key to the very cage it built around you. But what if you just stopped chasing? What if, for a moment, you stepped back and asked the one question that terrifies the system most? What happens if I stop buying? The silence that follows that question is where true freedom begins. Because without your consumption, the machine sputters. Without your fear, it loses its grip. And without your constant need for validation through spending, it loses its purpose entirely. Freedom isn't a bigger paycheck, it's a smaller need. It's not about earning more, it's about wanting less. That's the secret they never tell you, because a person who wants less is a person who can't be controlled. You see, the system doesn't just run on money, it runs on our emotions: envy, fear, pride, insecurity. The moment you recognize these feelings as manufactured tools, the whole illusion begins to crumble. Every single ad you've ever seen was designed to make you forget what you already have. Every product, every campaign, every influencer post is a subtle reminder that contentment doesn't sell. Why? Because the happiest version of you is the least profitable one. That's the truth hidden deep within the psychology of debt. Debt isn't just about money, it's about control. It keeps society predictable. It ensures the workforce stays hungry, the markets keep moving, and the machine stays alive. But control only works if you believe it's necessary. The moment you see the strings, you realize you were never powerless. The power was always in your awareness. Awareness is rebellion. It's the quiet refusal to play by invisible rules. It's a revolution that starts not with a protest, but with a change in perspective. When you begin to understand how they manufacture desire, how they monetize your emotions, you start to see the pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is where true wealth begins. Not in dollars, but in decisions. In choosing to value your time over trends, peace over possessions, and clarity over comparison. That's what terrifies the system. a population that no longer defines itself by what it buys. Because a society that stops buying isn't a broken economy, it's an awakened one. Maybe that's the whole point, to remember that you don't need anyone's permission to step out of the cycle. You don't need to wait until you're wealthy to be free. You just need to realize that debt only has power as long as you give it meaning. The very same tools that keep you spending can be the ones that set you free, if you use them with intention, knowledge, awareness, choice. Because the moment you understand how the game works, you're no longer just a player. You become an observer, and the observer can always choose to walk away. So the next time you see an ad telling you who you should be, remember this: you're not broken. You're being sold something. And once you truly understand that, the cycle ends. Because true freedom isn't bought, borrowed, or branded. It's the moment you stop mistaking consumption for meaning and finally start living on your own terms. Thank you so much for watching. If this message resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that challenges the status quo. Stay aware.